I do like the idea of them doing stuff underwater. And there's a certain point they're like, we've been up here about 10 minutes now. I don't think he's coming back up. Oh, well, okay. Who's your next candidate then? You know,
Yeah, weeding out process a little bit. If you have weak
next.
lungs,
Yeah.
you just off you go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Washington to Westminster, a show that looks across the Atlantic to find the sanity lacking at home and keeps coming up empty. I am your host, Andrea Bridges-Smith, and with me here from jolly old England, it's Matt Johnston. Matt, what news from the motherland?
Motherland. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, well, hello, Andrea. Well, as it turns out, things are looking a little bit rosier over here due to the fact we got ourselves another deal. And this one is the biggie. It's the all-important one. Following on the deal with with America and India, or as I like to call it, the Cowboys and Indians, right? We're getting ourselves one. We've gotten ourselves one with the EU. Hooray!
Well, that is a rare bit of good news, which, of course, we don't normally traffic in. And I am hoping that this doesn't mean that the time-space continuum has somehow fractured itself.
Yeah. Do you remember the good old days where we didn't have to ask that? Anyway, so
Yeah.
of course, the right-wing media and Reform and the Tories are all unhappy and are all using words like betrayal and traitor and surrender. Just 1 week after someone tried to burn Starmer's house to the ground. I'm sure that's going to end well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I understand this argument. How is having a trade deal traitorous? Because we signed one with you guys, sort of, as we discussed last week. So does that mean that we're both traitors now? Is that how that works? I don't get
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I guess so. If you do any sort of deal with anybody, then you're a traitor. That's the way it works, isn't it?
Not how it's worked in the past, but cool.
By the way, you're going to love this. So we've got a couple of the people that have complained about it have included Boris Johnson, whose own Brexit deal with the initial 1 year one to tide us over before we actually left proper was dreadful. He's the one that's now come out and said one of the things with the EU deal is the fisheries quota is staying the same. And he said, how
Okay.
it's staying the same? Oh, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe this. And it's like, you put that in place. You did that. The other person complaining about it, of course, is Nigel Farage. But you're going to love this. When it went up for debate in the Houses of Parliament, in House of Commons, I beg your pardon, guess who was away on holiday?
Farage?
Yep. He said he hasn't had a holiday in 3 years. I'm guessing those trips, those 5 trips to the States where he was going around having lavish fundraisers or whatever, that's not really a holiday, right?
No, that's a
Yeah.
work trip. Yeah, it just happens to incorporate a lot of drinking. So,
Yeah. But there are two further points to this. One is he actually, irony takes another level. He actually went on holiday in the EU. And the second point is the House of Commons is actually in recession next week. He could have easily gone next week, for goodness sake. Oh, for goodness sake. Anyway, so the
true
deal itself.
leadership,
Yeah,
true
yeah,
leadership from one of the best in Britain. Yes.
that guy's going to be our prime minister, I'm telling you. Anyway, the deal itself doesn't really involve that much, not really. And virtually all checks on the biggies, the virtually all checks on plants and animals will be dropped when moving between the UK and the EU, which is great news for our farmers. It means livestock, as I say, plant, vegetables, that sort of thing can switch from one to the other. And we've managed to keep our standards as well, in farming and certainly in relation to beef. And that's one of the reasons Starmer refused America's beef. I'm sorry, Andrea.
That's okay. It's just more for us.
There you go.
Taco Tuesday every day.
I do think, though, America's beef seems to be with everyone at the moment. So the rather poor deal that the UK fishermen had, as I say, is going to continue until 2038. We can use EU passport gates. Have you ever used one of these EU passport gates?
No, I don't think so. What's that?
Okay, well, it's as the name suggests, it's basically a plastic set of gates like this. You have to stay there until the passport scans and then opens and you go straight through. They're a lot
Oh, okay.
quicker than non-EU passport gates. The whole idea being that there's less to check if we're all kind of a member of something called the Schengen.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if we're all sort of under the same EU banner, as it were. We can all sort of switch fairly quickly. Those that aren't in the EU have to queue a little bit longer.
Gotcha.
That being said, that'll be down to each country to decide to implement it or not. Now, we're also working closer on intelligence and defence, and I suspect over the next few years or so, there'll be a European army. European army is probably too literal a word, but certainly some sort of cooperation, which may in time replace NATO. That's a maybe, just a maybe.
Okay, well, if you guys need any bombs or guns, we do have a guy. So just hit us up, let us know. We can hook you up.
Always, always, absolutely. We know you're good for that. Wonderful stuff. So we'll be linking our steel and cement markets as well, and that's one of the reasons that the EU was set up initially, is so that no one country would have such overwhelming access to things like steel and other raw materials like Germany did in the 1930s. And finally, the youth mobility scheme, which is still in negotiation though, but expect that to be in place soon, probably by the end of the year, certainly by the end of the year, I would say.
Okay, well, lots of details in there, lots to unpack, but it does sound like maybe you're headed towards better days with your neighbors. So that's a good thing. And if that doesn't work out, you can always threaten to annex them.
Hey, we tried it before, so why not? Anyway, I have a theory on this, and I think I'm the only one with this theory, which either makes me a certified genius or just certified.
Okay, one can never be sure.
Right. Okay, so a lot of the media are saying that Starmer didn't really want to go through with the whole Brexit thing again, with the reset. But I think he's kind of okay with that. I think he's testing the waters and seeing how a closer working relationship with the EU plays out across the country. Now, if you remember, Andrea, I did say that I thought we would have another EU referendum in 2029. You remember that?
Yes, yes.
Well, I think this is the first stage of that. What he's doing
Oh.
is kind of dropping the fishing industry that voted Brexit something like over 90% in it as a way to show to them that it was a bad decision, while hopefully getting a deal that will see the youngsters have freedom of movement across Europe, thereby reminding them why such a large majority of them voted to remain in the EU. Those that could, obviously, those that could vote 9 years ago, of course. Time will tell. Fingers crossed, but we'll see.
All right, that is an interesting theory, and if so, he's kind of playing four-dimensional chess here. He's really, looking very far into the future. So
Hmm.
that is an interesting plan to lay out. So you think maybe in 2029 there's a possibility of Brexit getting fully reversed, which begs the question: what ridiculous name would we call that? There's Unbrexiting, Brentry, Reunion. We need something dumb yet catchy to put on flags and T-shirts. So what do
I,
you think?
I do like Unbrexiting. That
Okay.
sounds like, I mean, it sounds like unboxing, let's be honest, but it's kind of works in so many regards. Now, unfortunately, amongst some of the population, the referendum we had 9 years ago has taken on almost like a cult-like status, which can never be questioned or revisited, no matter
Mm,
the damage. It kind of reminds me of your Second Amendment a little bit.
yeah.
So I'm just hoping that Keir Starmer is able to recognise this silent majority that now want to rejoin.
Yeah.
There we go. So anyway, what's happening in America, Andrea? Has Trump named it Amerilago yet?
Not yet. But Matt, you're going to be surprised to hear that Trump has actually acted with some decorum for once.
Well, thank goodness for armrests on my seat, which has managed to help me from not falling off it. So that's certainly newsworthy. Tell me more.
So I don't know if you've heard, but Joe Biden has been diagnosed with aggressive cancer, and Donald Trump posted online on Truth Social, wishing Biden, quote, a fast and successful recovery. It was a message that was gracious and kind and didn't contain any weird capitalizations right in the middle of it. So there's no way in hell that he wrote it.
I mean, that's positively humanizing, isn't it? Has his account been hacked? That's the question.
Maybe what we need actually is a squad of like decency hackers that break into people's accounts and say nice things, like maybe Elon Musk, somebody can go into his Twitter account and just be like, you guys all look nice today, or something like that. I
Yeah,
think that would be a
yeah.
nice change of pace. Now, of course, shortly after he did this post, or someone did this post, he did something that was a little bit more Trump-esque. He accused uh, the Biden doctors and Biden himself and his wife of lying about his condition while in office. Just slightly more on brand for him.
That's a bit more like it, I suppose. So is he coming up with any? I mean, I can't believe I'm even asking this, but is he coming up with any proof to back up this outlandish theory?
No, but to be fair, it all doesn't look very good right now, because the other thing that's happening with Joe Biden is this new book has come out saying that him and the people around him were hiding his mental and physical decline from the public while he was in office. And even maybe as far back as like when he was running to be elected president. And so the timing of this whole, now he has cancer announcement. It's like, and it's a very aggressive kind of far along cancer. People are asking, well, wait, how did that get missed while he was in office? And did they know about it while he was in office?
Mm,
Because, with the timing of the book, it's just all kind of interesting, let's say.
yeah.
So, this made me curious, Matt, if you guys have ever had to make the kind of choice that we were facing in the last election. We for a while we had Biden versus Trump, and even the people who liked Joe Biden and thought he was a good person were
Mm,
worried about him being too old to do the job. I include myself in that group.
mm.
And then you have Trump, who is clearly awful, also showing signs of some cognitive decline, just not as bad, but who appears to be in much better health, just in open defiance of both God and nature. Um, Obviously, there was a last minute switcheroo, but I'm curious if you guys have ever had an election like that where both the choices were just awful, or do you guys have more options to choose from since you have more parties?
Not really. I mean, certainly the last, crikey, here we go. Certainly the last couple of centuries, it's always been Labour or Conservative. Sorry, the last 100. I beg your pardon. Obviously, someone's going to tell me now that the Lib Dems, David Lloyd George, whereas Lloyd George was 19th century. So for the last 100 years or so, it's either been the Tories or Labour. There we go.
Okay.
Um, I don't think we've ever had it where we've had such two elderly sort of people running for office. Candidates, there we
Yeah.
go. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Elderly candidates. I'm trying to think of a point where they tend to be a heck of a lot younger, in all honesty. I suppose you could argue that the last election that we had were two bad choices. Obviously, you had Rishi Sunak and his constant wish to make the rich richer and not feeling anything for the poor, as it were, and in a sense, Keir Starmer, which a lot of people saw as a continuity candidate, if you like, for
Hmm.
the 14 years of what the Tories were doing. Um, I mean, I'll be honest, the Tories have consistently put up shite, awful candidates. That's just their thing, including the current one. She's just absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Labour have struggled a bit, did struggle a bit after Blair and Brown. That was about a decade or so ago. Although there's plenty to attack Starmer for, to be fair. But when you put him against the likes of Sunak, Truss, and Johnson, he's obviously holds up rather well against them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, well, make another point and see how you feel about this, because I feel that there should be an intelligence test for people who want to run a country to have to pass, right? Rather than simply having enough money, that being the only qualification.
Yeah, I like this idea.
Mm,
I think that they should have to pass a lot of tests. It kind of like what they do for astronauts, for example. So they have to do psychological testing to make sure that they're not going to like flip out when they're in outer space. They have to take lots of tests on their intelligence and their skills. They obviously have to be really good at like science and math. They have to like do training underwater. Yeah, let's put our candidates underwater and see what happens. I say we throw in some special challenges, some problem solving, like how do we unlock this box with a team? You guys have that show, Taskmaster. Maybe we do some of those kinds of things
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I mean, I say if you want to run a country, you should be held to at least the same standards as a contestant on Survivor.
Yes, quite so. I do like the idea of them doing stuff underwater, and there's a certain point they're like, we've been up here about 10 minutes now. I don't think he's coming back up. Oh, well, okay. Who's your next candidate then? You know,
Yeah, weeding out process a little bit. If you have weak
next.
lungs,
Yeah.
you just off you go.
By the way, and I'm showing my age a little bit now, but one of the first American elections I remember is Gerald Ford against, it would have been, was it Carter? It would have been Jimmy Carter, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, and they talked about the fact that Gerald Ford dropped out of the race, and I think I was 7 or something, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, they actually have a race." You know, it's just I just imagine them sort of like going on this marathon, and Gerald Ford going, "Oh, he's way ahead of me. No, I'm just gonna sit down and have a drink of water."
Yes, yes, a marathon. Let's make them do a marathon too. We'll get them out of the pool. We'll make
Yeah,
them run for 26 miles. It'd be, yeah, let's do that. I like it.
at least, at the very least, it'd be fun to see Trump do the first 200 meters, and then like Homer Simpson start to slow down.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We'd get rid of a good chunk of Congress as well if we did this, and possibly some people on the Supreme Court. So, yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
in favor of it. Tests, physical,
Um,
mental, let's do it.
so talking of various uh, TV programs that maybe should be TV programs, let's talk about a TV program, but by the sounds of it, shouldn't be one, because I hear that there are suggestions of a reality show that exploits immigrants for citizenship. That they're thinking of doing that. Have I got that right, Andrea?
Matt, you probably thought that we couldn't get more dystopian. Well, you were wrong again. So yes, there are reports that the Department of Homeland Security has been working with a producer on a TV show that would have contestants compete for a chance to win citizenship in the US. And I think they would be very motivated because if they lose, they could get shipped off to Sudan or Libya. And I hope you guys don't mind. We sort of took that Rwanda idea and just ran with it.
Yeah, yeah, and flown with it as well. How likely do you reckon that this could be of actually happening? What do you reckon the likelihood of that is?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It would be extremely on brand for this country, but noted puppy murderer Christy Nome, who is in charge of the DHS, has denied the plans for this reality show. So she's saying, no, absolutely not, not a thing. That was after everybody freaked out and said, what the hell? But, you know, to be fair to her, she does have a history of telling the truth, even when it will permanently stain her career, like the time she murdered that puppy and then wrote a book about it. So who really knows at this point?
Scary, all very scary.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously, I think that's one of the most dystopian shows that we could come up with. Over on the UK side, what do you think is the most dystopian reality show that the UK could possibly produce?
Well, we did have Big Brother over here for a little while. Did you have that
Yes,
over there? Yeah, yeah.
yes,
I mean, yeah, that's pretty dystopian, hence the name, of course, I suppose.
yes.
Okay, yeah, I've got it. I now, okay, bear with me here. So I used to live in a place called Portsmouth. Have you heard of it, Andrea?
Yes, sounds
Okay.
like it's at the mouth of a port.
Yes, pretty much, yes. You are quite right, yes. So it's about as south as it's possible to get in the UK without getting our feet wet, and slightly east of centre. Now,
Okay,
interesting fact, even though it's connected to the mainland, it's the only city not connected to the mainland. It's sort of done by a couple of bridges, as it were. So
okay.
it's sort of described as an island, and
Oh,
it's the most densely populated city in the UK. Anyway,
okay.
we definitely had an island mentality there. So everyone, it seems, wants to fight you and hate each other seemingly all the time. That's really what I remember about it. Just imagine Florida without the meth crystals and alligators. That's probably the best way I can put it. So if you want to see a dystopian show, then drop someone in the centre of Portsmouth, and their job is going to be to have a talk in one of the major halls they've got there on the benefits of immigration, like a lack of incest, and then public transport to get off the island. Anyone that makes it gets the magnificent prize of never having to go to Portsmouth again.
Okay, great. We can call it the Portsmouth Pursuit.
Like it.
Be a fun title. I like a little alliteration there. Yes, that sounds like a great one. We could. I could see that being a franchise. I could totally
Mm.
see that. Making its way to Florida in the middle of hurricane season, and it's like, okay, in order to get out of here, you have to like fight a crocodile and then escape a hurricane. Like
Maybe the Florida one could be more like you got to convince people of evolution or something like that.
yes, or talk people into giving up meth or something like
Yes,
that.
yes. Tell them that the world is round and then run. Yeah.
All right, we should probably wrap it up before
Okay.
any producers out there start getting ideas, because we're giving them a lot of good free stuff, and I think we're dystopian enough. Thank you.
Yeah, can we copyright these? I think we probably need to, don't we? I don't know if it becomes YouTube sort of, YouTube's business now. I don't know, but I think we need to copyright things just to clear ourselves out.
Yes,
All right.
we'll call the
Thank,
lawyers and get them to
yeah.
sort it all out.
Right. Thank you all so much for joining us, everyone. We are off now until June, but you can keep up with the American mayhem on Andrea's channel right here. Thank you. And on my channel, which is at theinterestingtimes.co.uk. Have a good couple of weeks and we'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.